I'm Jason with Born Handy, and this is the last video in the video series about building the Hutch storage system. The trim goes on fairly quickly and brings a lot of detail that contributes to the aquarium project as a whole. I wanted to display where the furniture and the cabinetry and the items displayed on either side were just as much a part of the display as the aquarium itself, and I believe that I've hit the mark. I made these corner blocks here in my own shop, but the only reason I made them is because I had a lot of scrap material laying around that was about the right size. So I cut it all to the same size and I put this detail on it. But these are very inexpensive. It can be purchased at pretty much any hardware store in these exact dimensions. These particular ones happen to be 3 inches by 4 inches. And they go on like so. And the reason that you use these is because it can be very difficult to tie one kind of trim to another. So these allow us to use a baseboard style trim down below and a fluted board style trim vertically without having to worry about a good way to make that connection. A little bit of glue. I'll press the piece against my cabinet and attach it from the inside. And that takes care of my corner blocks. Continuing the tradition of place the piece where you want it and mark it. Same as before, I'm going to apply a little bit of glue and I'll attach the piece. In this case, there just isn't a good way for me to get underneath and attach, so I will have to do this from the outside. And that should do the trick. Now, I'm going to attach the vertical pieces. So just like always, a little bit of glue on the back. I'll set it in place, center it up, and tack it. So what we're looking at right here is a typical baseboard that you find at your local hardware store. This piece is about a 3 1/4 or maybe 3 inch baseboard. These are what's called fluted boards. You'll normally find these in the door and window trim section of your hardware store. And these are corner blocks. This is also a piece of trim that I picked up at the same hardware store. There are literally thousands of different kinds of trims to choose from. This is a piece that I thought would look nice to frame out a nice square piece in here to give the appearance that maybe there's an additional door or at least some other detail here in an otherwise flat area. The method that I'm going to use to determine how big this is going to work for pretty much anybody and no matter what your dimensions are. But I have taken a piece of the face frame material and just cut down a small scrap block because what I ultimately want is 2 inches from every edge away in order to create the inner frame detail. So I will place this on top of my block and place a mark. I will place this at this block, place another mark, and so on. And now I'm finding all of my corners. So I've taken my first piece of trim and I've cut a 45-degree miter on it, and I'll place it pretty close to the mark, and then I'll come up here and I'll place an additional mark a little further away because I can't fit this piece in here to get precise. But this will allow me to cut the 45 close enough that I can place it in there, put another mark, and nibble it in until it's exactly the length that I'm looking for. And with the mark made, I'll cut the 45-degree angle. But instead of making just one of these, I'm going to make 2 for each side. So there will be a total of 4 cut to this length. So now I'll go ahead and connect the piece up top. I'll put a little bit of glue. I'll place my corners in my corner mark. And I'll attach it with a couple of pin nails. And I'll clean up any excess glue. And now I'm ready to cut the vertical pieces. So now that I have my verticals cut out, I'll go ahead and attach those as well. And right back to the pin nailer. And when that glue sets up, that should last a lifetime. This door is going to be 15 inches wide by 19 inches high, and this drawer front is going to be 15 inches wide by 4 1/4 inches high, and both pieces are 3/4 inch thick. If you'll do a little bit of homework, I'm sure you'll find that there are people who live in your vicinity who build cabinet doors for cabinet shops. But if you're unlucky enough to live somewhere where doors aren't just down the road, the fact is you can buy cabinet doors off of Amazon. All you do is find a style you like, find the door in the width that you're looking for, and once you've clicked on that door, you can change the height, and those doors will be priced and can be sent to you at about what I have to pay for local manufacturers making doors for me here. Same with the drawer faces. Most of the time, places that make cabinet doors will also make drawer faces for you. In my case, I am going to do my own drawer face simply because I'm going to add a detail to the outside of this board, and I'm going to do a detail that matches on the outside of this door. And so these two will look like they came from the same place when they're painted. So with that detail cut, I'm also going to go ahead and drill and place the holes for my drawer pull, simply because I'm going to add an additional detail to the outside that'll make it a little hard to get exactly centered after the fact. So it's much easier to do it now. I'm going to start off by taking a piece of scrap wood and marking exactly the location of the holes that are to be drilled. Next, I'm going to find the center line within the piece, and that's also going to be easy to do with a combination square. Basically, because I know that the drawer face is 4 1/4 wide, I should be able to set this to 2 1/8 and be exact, but it's always a good idea to double check. So I'll place a mark, flip it over, come in the other side, and place another mark. And I'm close enough that I don't think anybody would ever notice, but I'll make a slight adjustment, check again, and I've fallen right in the middle of those 2 marks, so I know that now I'm set exactly for the center line of this board. Now I'm going to take that piece of scrap material, I'll place it on top, set my combination square on this end, hold the piece, set my combination square on this end, holding the piece down. I'll double check one more time to make sure that we haven't moved. We haven't, so I'll take my pencil and place a mark all the way across. So now I have a light pencil mark that gives me the exact center line of this piece. Now all I need to do is to center up these 2 marks on that line. And that's also pretty easy to do with a combination square. I'm going to set it where I think the middle is approximately located. Then I'll take my combination square, place it on the edge, and slide it to the first mark. Now I can lock it down, come over to the other side, and see how close we are. I can see I need to move about 1/4 inch, so I'll slide this way halfway the distance. That's exactly right on this side, and it's exact on this side. So now I'll just transfer those marks to intersect the line that we've just made, and that is where we'll drill our holes for our handle. So these are some of the same trim pieces that you saw us use earlier on the sides of the cabinet, and we're going to be applying those to the outside of the drawer face. More or less, I want to create a small reveal just on the inside of this cove. I want it to just reveal this shelf here. I'm going to attach these with the same method as before with a pin nailer. And just kind of loosely holding them together, I'll be able to move this entire frame around until I'm satisfied that I'm sitting in the center. Now I'll clean up the excess glue and set this piece aside to dry. So now I'm back over to my cabinet door, and I'm ready to drill for the hinges that are going to go in here, and they're going to be concealed hinges, so I'm going to need the right drill bit to drill the recess holes for those to sit in. Typically that's an 1 3/8 Forstner bit, and the hinges that I've bought are no exception. The big things to pay attention for if you're using this style of hinge is that every hinge has a slightly different requirement in terms of how far away it needs to be from the edge of the door, how far the door will overlay the face frame. In my case, these are 1/2 inch overlay. And these hinges also tell us the approximate location that they should be in terms of top to bottom from the door. So what I want to do is call out what I'm going to be using for these hinges, but you're going to want to be sure and read the recommendations of the hinges that you've purchased because they may be different. These hinges call for 3 7/8 of an inch down for be the center mark, so I'll go ahead and put me a line there on each one. And they also call for somewhere around 1/8 to 3/16 of an inch away from the edge when you drill the hole. So in order to achieve the 3/16 gap that we're looking for, I've slid my combination square to 7/8 of an inch, and I can place a mark. And that gives me my center hole mark for each of these recessed holes. I believe I've gone deep enough, but I want to do a quick test fit. And that's going to be just perfect. I'll drill the hole for the hinge on the other side. So now I'm ready to attach the door to the cabinet, and there's a couple of things to keep in mind. Of course, the very first one is which side you want the door to open to. In my case, this particular cabinet is going to go on the right hand side of the aquarium, so I want the hinges to be on this side so that the door will open in this direction. And now we'll reinstall the drawer and see how our alignment looks. But from what I can see right now, it looks like we've done pretty well. So now I've got the door on and the rough adjustment of what is parallel to the sides in place. At this point, what I want to do is go ahead and place a mark along where the door traces. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm about to come back and add the drawer face. And these pencil marks give me a rough idea of how to align the drawer so that it's aligned with the door. I'm sure there's a better way to do this than the method that I use. I just don't know what it is yet. If anybody does, please let me know in the comments, because I'm happy to start doing this an easier way. And now the drawer will just pop out. I'll push the cabinet back out of the way a little piece and turn the drawer box over and apply a couple of screws to help hold everything in place. Other than left to right alignment, the only other cue that I've taken for perfect alignment on this is to align the bottom of the drawer face exactly with the bottom of the drawer box. And now I'm ready to drill the holes all the way through the drawer box so that I can attach the drawer pull. Okay, soft close drawer box, soft close door hinges. Now let's get our handle on. So I've just arbitrarily chosen to come down 2 1/4 inches, and I'm going to place a horizontal mark here. And then I'm going to move my combination square to 1 1/8 inches and lock it back down. And I'll come right back over here, and I'm going to draw a line that intersects the line that we've just made, and that's going to be the location for the top hole. Then I'm going to come down to approximately where the other hole is going to go, and I'm going to draw a vertical line here. I'm going to take the stick that we used earlier where we placed the 2 marks to indicate how far apart the holes should be. And I'm going to hold the first mark against the top crosshair where we've placed our mark. And then I'm going to line the stick up, and I'm going to make a second mark at this location. So now I'll take my drill bit and I will drill these 2 holes out. With the handles on, all that's left is paint and assembly. Now I have a video where I show exactly how I painted my aquarium, and the exact same techniques and principles apply to these side cabinets. So if you like the look that I achieved, that video is definitely something you're going to want to check out. If you've enjoyed this build, be sure and give me a like and a subscribe, and keep an eye out for the video where I give a grand tour of the project as a whole, and we really don't get into much about how it was built. We more talk about how everything works together as a system. So until next time, this is Jason with Born Handy.